when I woke up that morning, I was walking out the door just feeling defeated because I worked so hard and bills and everything is just, it weighs on me constantly because I'm just like always this close to losing it. But then I sat on the bus and I listened to the song and I reflected and reminisced on some old times and realized like, man, there's so much opportunity in front of me. I have to stop worrying about what hasn't happened yet and make happen what I want to.
Taking a minute to be myself, don't need no help. We keep on rising.
Welcome back to Unlocking Commerce in Business, where commerce is the full exchange of human value, not just transaction. I'm your host, Connie Davis, and I'm super excited about today's conversation because this is what this show is about. Today's conversation is with a man in the middle of the bravest exchange there is. He's buying his life back, guys. And in the minutes that follow, you're going to hear what discipline looks like when the results haven't arrived yet and what a bus seat can teach a boardroom. Lots of you in my community are in boardrooms. You sit in the middle of technology. You're at the helm of the biggest organizations in the country. And I want you to see why the most undervalued assets in your community right now might be the man that everyone wrote off. So stay with me here for a second because Richard Cortez is a father, a man of faith, and a man in recovery. And he is on a journey. He's clean and sober as of this recording with the coin to prove it, guys. And he works hard. We know he trains hard. He rides the bus and posts the truth on his Facebook and social media platforms in the mornings when those are heavy, as well as his milestone days. So I'm really excited, Richard, and we're going to call you Rich on the show. Welcome. And today, as I ask you questions, I just want you to know that any question you can say is a pass or you can completely answer. This is all about your ledger and you decide what we read from the show from your story.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for being here. And guys, we found Richard through a Facebook post and his story, his words spoke to my heart. And I'm always scouring some of the communities and groups of adversity looking for stories like Richard's. And I'm really excited to bring that to you guys today. But Rich, before we go anywhere else, please tell me who's waiting for you at home tonight and what do they call you? Who motivates you?
My babies, I'm a single father of three teenage kids. So that's my world. That's my reason. That's what pushes me on the days I don't want to do it.
That's amazing. And do they call you dad? Do they call you daddy? Will they call you pop? What do they call you?
Yeah, daddy.
Okay, cool.
Something.
Yep. And you're in Arizona, so it's hot and sunny there, I'm sure, just like here in Florida. So amazing. And I love when technology brings us together because, we can exchange value in shows like this, and that's what this show is all about. But you actually post something that a lot of people actually don't. And I want to call attention to it because in this audience, we're all familiar with the performance and the Facebook, right? The face and the performance that happens on some of these platforms. But you talk about heavy mornings sometimes right alongside the victories. Why do you let people see both?
Because they have to know that that's a part of this. Like you can't expect to make a decision to change your life and everything just gets easy. There's no easy button. There's going to be challenges regardless. And I just want people to see that part of me. And I like to post at the end of the day and say, look, I made it. I'm here. I get to go home to my babies now. Everything I'm working for, basically everything I've been working for, I already have. Oh, it's just broadening the vision.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. And, we're going to get into your story a little bit more, but I always ask this question, usually on every show. When you hear the word commerce, what's the first memory that comes up? Not the definition, but the memory of commerce.
The memory, it just really makes me think about struggle, honestly. Like I grew up without my parents and my grandmother who raised us was poor. And so when I hear commerce, I just think about Honestly, it gives me anxiety just to hear it.
Yeah. You got a deep seated belief system inside of you of scarcity, like so many people. And money makes us feel certain things. And people tell us, like, oh, it's just money. Well, money is emotional. And that's what this show talks about. And it brings it forward so that we can actually heal some of those money wounds. And we're not just transactions, right? We're not happening just through a card or through, tap of a phone or an e-commerce transaction. There's real people, guys, behind this. And Rich is one of those real people. So we're going to pull his story forward a little bit more for you today. So let's get into your ledger a little bit, Rich. And I use that word intentionally because we all know, the checkbook has a ledger. You used to balance your checkbook, or we use a digital banking ledger now. And but let's get into your ledger, which is a story. And I know you're counting the days. And what does this number that's tied to this major milestone for you, a coin that you picked up in April, what does that number hold that people who've never had to count days like you don't understand?
Um, every single day is a story, and every single day counts, none more or less than the other. And really, it is just a day at a time. Like they tell us in recovery and in meetings, it's one day at a time. But when they start to add up, it just puts a different kind of confidence in. It puts a different outlook on things. I have so much more hope now knowing that I've made it this far because I never had before. I was in active addiction for 15 years, and I just couldn't have imagined being a year and a half almost sober.
Congratulations on that. It's such a huge milestone. And those babies are your motivator. It's very, very clear. So it's hard work. And not many people make it all the way throughout like that. So that's great. It's powerful too. And I know that there's always a before, right? For every story, there's always a before. So, let's talk a little bit about that cycle of addiction. You mentioned you lived in that for about 15 years. And I want you to share whatever you're ready to share about who you were before that day one started on your countdown, that you've been celebrating this milestone now. What did day one actually look like? Is there anything you want to share?
Oh man, that day that I made that decision, I believe it was maybe the day or a couple of days after Easter last year. And I had been on the streets for 3 months. And if anybody knows what it's like to be on the streets in Phoenix in April, it's not easy. I woke up one day outside where I had been staying for months, and it was my middle daughter Linda's birthday was about to be in 3 weeks, and I had promised her the year before that I would be there, and I wasn't going to be there. And I just woke up that day and walked. I don't know. I walked all the way across Phoenix, and I walked into an urgent care, and I called a detox and got picked up, and that was it.
You were there. You had arrived. Wow. And I want to go back to this post that really caught me when I was kind of, looking at your background and preparing for the show. And how could I humble myself enough to have this type of a conversation with someone that's carried so much, right, so far? And you closed a post, though, where you asked about forgiveness from anyone that you had lost touch with or had offended. And to me, that's like a man who's settling his accounts in public, right? There's ledgers and we have outstanding balances with people or with collectors, right? We use the word banking words, collectors or collections. What does making amends like that actually feel like for someone that's been on a journey like you? And is there ledgers that you're still kind of open and trying to reconcile?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, personal debts that I feel like I owe. I mean, be it financial or otherwise. Like I want to close that chapter of my life. And there's still a lot of, uh, I mean, people don't have to forgive me, but if I try, I feel like I did my part. And,
Yeah.
it means a lot to me because I take a lot of pride now in being somebody who's consistent and dependable and does what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah, and your word holds a lot of value too, as far as like what you're trying to become and bringing those thoughts from the inside out into the manifest world, right? And really creating that new reality. So it's such a journey. And for some of my work, and I shared that with you before we got on the show here, it's really important to celebrate those milestones and help see the adversity, the stories that people carry on the inside of them because it takes a lot of internal disciple. You're a student of your own thoughts and that discipline that it takes to kind of emerge like you've done. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this, where you are in your journey, as far as what you celebrate every day and how it's helping to kind of reveal the real person behind all of that adversity.
Eh, I'm just really finding out who I really am. So every day is just this journey and this challenge that's so exciting for me because early in my life, I lost my parents in a murder suicide committed by my father.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the grief and the trauma of that, I didn't know how that had affected me. So I've never really had a sense of self identity. I just was lost. And that particular event defined my entire life. So for me now, it's like the milestones, just getting up and sending my kids to school and getting to the gym and going to work. Like every part of it is just continues to show me what I'm capable of. And yeah, that's the most exciting and important part of all this for me is just learning who I am and knowing that they're really the only limits that are exist are the ones that I put on myself. And I've done that for so long. I set limits that I thought I could exceed. I realized it could have been a lot easier on me if I had the mindset I have.
Oh, that's incredible. And thank you for sharing that because that's a ledger entry that was made very early on. And, as I spent time out in the trauma community with the practitioners and the therapists, they're quick to label, right? So we label with things like, and I've talked about it on the show before, guys. I've said, we label with PTSD, we label with, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, right? And, Rich, I'm seeing you nod your head and you're like, okay, I've heard those labels, right? And you can claim them, but then you can also stand on them instead of sitting with them and letting them cover you up. You actually can stand on them and then lift yourself up. And that's really what I see that you've done. So it's an incredible inspirational journey. And I'm really glad that we're elevating it for people that are out there listening right now going, okay, yeah, I got some of those things going on the inside. So let's go to that bus seat, that day that you posted about the bus seat. And let's talk about anxiety on the way out the door, facing the world. And you said that there was a song that changed everything. What was that and what shifted for you?
Well, I don't want to really reveal the song because it's something that we're working on. And
That's okay.
my uncle and I are going to start a project. We used to own a recording studio together long time ago, and we were into music and we were trying to make that happen. 20 years ago, and we just decided to revisit it, and we're gonna do like a derivative of an old song. So I don't want to say what song, but yeah, that morning, um, I don't want to say too
Yeah.
much about my uncle, but I'm so blessed to have this opportunity to do this project with him because life is not long and we're not always promised tomorrow. But when I woke up that morning, I was walking out the door just feeling defeated because I worked so hard and bills and everything is just, it weighs on me constantly because I'm just like always this close to losing it, But then I sat on the bus and I listened to the song and I reflected and reminisced on some old times and realized like, man, there's so much opportunity in front of me. I have to stop worrying about what hasn't happened yet and make happen what I want to.
Mm. Well, I am someone that, there's a lot of tasks that we all carry. And me, I'm kind of designed to be an anxious person as well. So there's always like okay, I got to worry about this task and I got to worry about that. And I got this meeting next week. So there's always that future flood of stuff that's coming at us. And especially in the digital world now, too, we have notifications on our phone and on our watches, and, everything's popping up. And it's easy to get completely like loaded down with tasks, and everybody's demanding our time, which is our most precious asset. And the time and the attention that we invest, and I'm using banker's terms again, but the way that we invest our time, absolutely, that tells us whether we're going to end up in a negative balance or in a positive balance. And you're just an example. What you just shared is like, I'm going to choose to put those thoughts into the future versus letting the future kind of cover me up and weigh me down.
Exactly. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So let's talk about you had met and announced a milestone. So let's talk about this milestone about um, you know, how you realized that your faith is what was helping you get past your past. No pun intended there, but where was your faith when you were still using and or, in your addict phase? And how did you find it again? Where did that happen for you?
I've always had a relationship with God. Uh, that's kind of what's gotten me through since I was a child, just prayer and faith. In active addiction, the same way as it is with people, I think we do with God. We want to seclude ourselves. We feel ashamed. So, like, even though I know God can see me always, it's like I try to hide, I don't talk to him the way I do. I don't ask him for his help. And that's why I don't receive it. The Bible says, ask and you'll receive, so I never thought that like God had abandoned me, or I never lost faith. I just felt too ashamed to come to him when I was in active addiction.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think, do you feel like it's helping you really unlock everything that had kind of gotten stuck in like the dark and the shadows, stuff you didn't want to deal with? And now it's like you've just got this different courage to reveal yourself. And as you find out who you are and learn like what you're capable of, what are the skills and the trades and the value that you're finding yourself exchanging in the community to build yourself, to rebuild your life?
Um, I'm learning not to be so antisocial. Uh, I'm realizing that I don't have to just bottle it all in. And when I do let it out, like it can help somebody. It can give somebody some hope. And so definitely like I'm working on people skills. I try to talk to everybody. I try to get to know people's stories, not just share mine with them, and care and listen. And I think that's the most important part of what I'm building right now is my ability to connect with people.
Yeah, it's powerful. And that is in commerce language. If you think about the beginning of a transaction in the store with a grocery store or a private business person, and you decide to buy from someone that they're selling either a product or a service, it starts with some level of interaction. And we talk about that in the banking world all the time. And we try to get to, the customer journey. We try to think about who the person is that's going to bring that money in and entrust a financial institution to store that for them. Or when you decide to go into a store and interact with brands and products on the shelves, it starts with trust and it starts with, brand visibility. So what I hear you saying, I'm going to put it in, kind of like technology and bankers terms is in entrepreneurial terms is you're deciding like, I have this value. I have a product on a shelf and I'm taking it off the shelf and I'm going to go start being my own CEO and my own salesperson and my own advertiser and my own marketer. And I'm going to, exchange that token of value, that source of value inside of myself with the community around me. So it's so powerful when you can rephrase it and go, it's not just a story sitting on a shelf that's weighing me down. That's my future.
And it's so cool how technology makes all that so accessible to us now. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So you're embracing technology and so what does the future look like for you? What is it that you want to accomplish? What mission are you on? Like how are you going to take all of these assets now and put them into practice?
Well, I just recently finished a poetry collection that I started early in my rehabilitation, and I'm working on a novel, like a crime drama novel. It's fictionalized, but it's based heavily on true events from my life and lives of people I've uh, crossed paths with in the darker side of my life.
Right.
So I want to continue to write. Like I said, we're working on a song, my uncle and I want to make music, and I want to use that to, allow me to be able to speak to people, to help people, to show people what's possible. And really, in a short time, if you really just buckle down and commit to making a decision and doing what it takes to get to where you be.
Right, absolutely. And I know that there's individuals in my audience and the audience is going, global. So we've got audience members over in Europe and in Australia and we're in Spain and there's some really cool global organizations that are part of this human rights, human empowerment movement to elevate those that are kind of sitting in the sidelines watching all of the what they consider lucky or elite ones, right, that have the resources that are sitting on the sidelines going, gosh, if I could just get a chance, if I could just get a little bit of a chance. And, me being in financial technology and blockchain, and, I talk about digital assets and the digital assets that you're talking about, those can go global. I mean, the technology can allow us to create communities and to exchange tokens and trade the assets that we're creating as NFTs, for example. Hint, hint, I'm giving you some ideas here, but there's so much that you as a creator, all of us as creators, can utilize this technology for. And that's really what I'm passionate about is finding individuals that are in their creative zone that understand like they've been holding themselves back by there's a book that was actually written by Gay Hendricks and it's called The Big Leap. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. It's about your inner thermostat. And they talk about this setting that you're like, okay, I'm at home and I want to cool off, right? We do that when we're hot in Arizona, Florida, right? You set your thermostat down so that you get the house cooler. But when your internal body is like, I'm at a thermostat where it's like, I can't go anymore because of my own belief systems, now we're sabotaging where we're supposed to go. And I love that you've tapped into that as part of your journey. So, what other aha moments have you had?
Um, like I said, it's just every day I continue to push myself further than I thought I could yesterday.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I just realize new heights every day. And I feel like I'm just so much more capable. My confidence is something it's never been. I think I don't know about any other aha moments. I've just been reflecting a lot lately on the opportunities. I've had some extraordinary opportunities and accomplished some extraordinary things in life. And like to just, I can't let that all be a waste, you know? So,
Mm,
so I have to learn from those lessons. So
yeah.
that's try to have those moments every day. I try to reflect every day.
Yeah.
What can I do better, you know?
So let's talk a little bit about the assets now. So you've mentioned you're doing some writing, you're doing some poetry. Um, I want to talk about traditional assets that, the bankers look at. And you've got a little bit of a background. So I want to use this as an example, if it's okay, to kind of talk about your experience with money and what happens on the system side of money and how that's become a barrier, a bottleneck, something that has slowed you down from being able to maybe get access to capital or resources for things. And you mentioned the bills, right? And how they kind of, it's part of a anxiety point for you. So let's talk a little bit about, has anything changed for you as far as an entry into the banking system? Is there anything that's like really just being a block that you would say, if I could change some of that for people that are going through what I've gone through? 99% of, we'll call them mental health episodes, domestic incidences, things like that start with some form of a money stressor. Those the data shows that. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of that money wounded background for you and share what you would think that the bankers and the technology companies that are moving our money systems would need to hear.
Man, that's a tough one. I think a lot of it's our decisions, and I just feel like had I made better decisions, I've had my hands on some money and I just made poor decisions. I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't know that it's them. I'm not very familiar or educated with how the banking system works, first of all. So that makes it hard for me to even think about what they're doing and what they can be doing.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's our responsibility to get educated on that. And I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn to budget and figure all this out. But it really is up to us. It's up to the individual to change your circumstance, honestly.
That's fair. That's fair. And, I've had some different conversations, and that's why I try to ask that one because sometimes people do need help. They do need their, financial resources in their community to kind of find them in different places than where, it's always you come to us, right, at our place of business and walk in the door. But I've also sat with some individuals that have really struggled walking through that door because they didn't feel worthy. They didn't feel like they would have anything to really deposit into that institution and to be able to maintain. And a lot of that has to do with cash flow and
Right.
how that flows in and out of people's lives. And it's kind of tight sometimes. And it's hard to keep everything up to standards as far as what somebody else's standards are for you to qualify. So,
Right.
those are really important words for people to really think about. Like, when does that good enough or qualification, when do I think that that doesn't apply to me?
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. I've never really thought about it. Yes. I guess from where I come from and not having much, I don't know. I've never thought about stuff like that. Now I do. And I realize like it's going to be my responsibility to learn what I have to learn in order to better my situation. So that is definitely a big part of it. Money and business. And because I've got so many ideas and so many things I want to do, but I'm just learning how to go about it.
Yeah. And do you know where your resources are in your community as far as like entrepreneur, small business resources? And do you seek those out?
I've kind of just begun looking into it, but I mean, as far as like resources for I mean, I've gotten some help with food boxes I mean, the community here in Phoenix is pretty amazing. The recovery community and the homeless advocates and stuff. There's a lot going on politically that's kind of iffy, but the community here is pretty awesome. And I'm sure now that I start to seek out uh, the help that I need, I'm going to find it. I think it's there. I think we just have to find it.
Yeah. And, the
What's the
buzzwords,
responsibility to put in the effort?
it is, but it also can be, free will and intention only goes so far when you get so tired, right? And what we don't
Yeah.
want, and I live in a county here in Florida that it's the top recidivism county in the state, which means
Mm.
people are getting out, they're serving their time, they're going away, they have all the reflection time, and then they come back, and it's so hard to keep everything above board that they end up going back to the life that they knew that got them in there in the first place because the resources aren't quite known or they're not getting as far deep into the community at a grassroots level that we need them to. So when you seek out, and I'll give you the buzzwords that are at least here in Florida, I'm sure they're there too, is economic empowerment. How do we stabilize people economically? How do we give them access to developing courses in their community for small business classes and really teach them the heart of commerce? And that's a place to start seeking out what those words are and then look at the resources, capital resources, small business loans and ways that you can find these different sources of capital that are aligned with communities that you're inside of right now, the recovery community. Everybody's a creator. And you're proving that, right? You've written some poetry, you've got assets on a truck ready to sell, basically. You're going to be doing projects. Those are going to take some capital. And what we don't want is to see individuals, really fizzle out because the free will and the energy has tapped out.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
It's like you said, I think it's just the education of it. I mean, it has to be more available.
yes. Yes. And what this show is about is really exposing some of the opportunities. As you say, you've got opportunities that you're seeing as an individual, and individuals like me doing this kind of work. We look out at the community and we're like, where do we need to meet the people where they're standing? And how do we reach them? And what do we need to say in order to get their attention?
Hmm.
What needs to change, in your opinion?
What needs change? Well, I think it's I don't know. I'm not sure, honestly.
That's okay. Let's ask a different question. Where does the system make it harder for someone like you in recovery to become economically whole again? A
Well,
job
like
application or
you
whatever.
mentioned, like business loans and stuff like that, and I've got all these ideas. I've got full business plans put together, but yeah, for me to go apply for a business loan, like it just the task is daunting. I know I'm not. I don't have the credit score. I don't have. It's scary. It's scary to even ask.
Yeah. So you just immediately went to the
Yeah.
checklist of what you don't have. And
Right.
what are those things on your checklist, just so the audience hears it, as far as what's creating that anxiety or making you think like you're not going to measure up?
Well, I have no history. I've dealt with cash my whole life, so I have no history. I haven't made payments my whole life. I haven't had bank accounts. Um, my credit score is very low. Just all of it, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All of those measurements of someone on paper or digitally in a ledger that shows performance, but yet there's a real person right here in front of us, guys. Rich is telling us his story, and he's got ideas brimming, and he's got the attitude and the mindset to go get them. But where's the barrier? Where's the block? So I'm asking that question out to the ether, because whoever is listening to this show right now, if you're in a position of, can we change the system? Can we, find an organization to partner with to see how we can bring more, there's organizations out there that have loans, money to loan, but they can't find the right candidates to loan it. And there's money sitting in a ledger somewhere for, lending. But is it the criteria that can't reach them? Maybe. Is it, are they not partnered with the right organizations in the community? Maybe. So if you were to think about, a lender or someone that might have those types of resources, a credit union, a bank, an employer who actually wanted to bet on you, Rich, what would that look like for them to hear you say, like, I am capable of doing X and Y, and this is why you can bet on me?
I mean, you'll just have to. I got it all detailed out. If you want me to show you, I'll show you. I've
All
got
right.
numbers, plans, all that. So uh, I just don't really know who to present it to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say there's going to be someone on this show that's going to seek you out, and they're going to say, let's sit down and have a conversation about your business plans. That's my crystal ball, that when you tell a story like that, that's the old days of banking. The old days
Yeah.
of banking was, you'd walk in, you'd sit down, you'd talk to a banker about your business vision. They'd ask you some questions, and we would sit side by side to build a community. And
Yeah.
that
And I think
exists.
that's the difference is now it's like it's just numbers and paper and they don't ever get to see you, they don't ever get to know what you're actually capable of. It's just gonna show your history, you know?
Yes. Yes. And I think that, what you're building for your kids and this vision that I can tell is brimming from you is probably going to be far more valuable than any bank statement would ever show. Would you agree?
I would hope so. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what else do you want to tell us about your poetry, your work, where you're headed, where people can find you?
Well, my YouTube and TikTok are at Recovery Rich. My Instagram is Recovery Rich PHX, and Richard Cortez on Facebook.
All right. Awesome. And will they be able to find your poetry? Is that somewhere where they can purchase
I
it?
do post. I do post. I've not published the poetry book yet, so I'm working on that. But I do post like videos of me reading poetry and stuff.
Okay. So if you're a publishing company out there, guys, if you're looking for the next, collection of poems, you need to contact Rich because it sounds like he's got something ready to hit the books and the airwaves here. So I'm really excited that we got to have a chance to have this conversation, Rich. And before we close, Um, I don't know if it's too late to kind of talk about this, but I do know that, I still have a few minutes if you do, but that seems to be something that you say is when you talk about what you're doing with your time. And I see that on your post. You're like, I'm doing this with my time. I'm out here doing that. And what would you say to someone that might be in some type of an addict phase about time and how they spend it?
You can't have it back. You can't get it back, and every second you waste, it's gone forever. And your words and your actions, they're forever there. So don't waste your words and your actions. Don't waste your time.
Well said. Well said. All right, guys, we are going to wrap up. Thank you, Rich, for being on the show with me. Hang out for just a second. We're going to wrap up. We'll get your social handles and everything. Everybody, this episode's going to be out in a couple of weeks. I can't wait for it to hit the airwaves and to share this story. And then, Rich, we just wish you so much luck on your journey to keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Unlocking Commerce and Business. If this conversation resonated, here's what you can do. Subscribe for weekly conversations with survivors, innovators, and changemakers, building regenerative alternatives to extractive commerce. Share this episode with collaborators, partners, funders, and changemakers in your network. The people ready for restorative commerce need to hear these voices. Drop a comment below. Tell us what patterns you're recognizing or what solutions you're building. We read every one. Commerce is everywhere, and healing extraction patterns inside our communities creates regenerative commerce outside. Like a lighthouse, we're here, exploring and cutting through fog, pointing toward what works. Welcome to the era of restorative commerce. Until next time, explore courageously, build sovereignly. You are the source and store of value. This is Connie Davis signing off. Thank you for being here.